So this is a recording of a solution to Lab 4 on CM2015. Using NetBeans, what I've done is I've already created an item class and created it with a description, cost per unit. It's got a constructor which takes 3 parameters, and I've done the getter and setter methods for all of them. I can also do a toString, insert code toString. If I put all 3 of the things in. Now I want to use toString again, so I'm going to get rid of some of the rubbish that that NetBeans gives us, and I'm going to write it as a description, and then in brackets I'm going to say how many of those things I have. So I'm going to say brackets, this dot, get the number of units, and then I'm going to say at, and I could use a little pound sign after that. Just going to split that line so we can see it all. At a certain number of pounds, this dot get the cost per unit, and then I'm going to finish off the bracket, and then I'm going to add that with the overall cost in a second. All right, so I could use that. Back in the main method, I've got a couple of items there, and I'm going to do s out I1 dot to string. If I run that, it should come up with shoes 3 at £25. I could write each, I suppose. But I've got a little toString which will be useful later on when I start thinking about discounted items or VAT related items. So something else that you've got to do in item is you have to calculate the cost. Cost is going to be a double calc cost. All the information to be able to calculate the cost of this particular item is in the method itself, because we know how many we have. This dot, what is it? Get number of units, and we know how much each unit costs. This dot get cost per unit, multiplying together, there's our cost. So I could go in here and I could do system out I1 dot get calc cost, run that, and 3 at £25 is £75. Excellente. Then back into item. Because the toString, I want to add the cost on the end, because I think that's part of the kind of the item itself, number of kind of units to make up this one item. So I'm going to tag on the end costing and pound sign, and then I'm going to tag on the end plus this dot calc cost. There it is there. I'm not really bothered about the format of this thing or anything, so I'm not bothered about restricting it to 2 decimal places. But now if I run that thing, it puts the cost on the end. Okay, so I can get rid of that. I can get rid of that thing actually in that second. System out of print line. So that's item. Job's a good one. Then I'm going to go on to add in the discounted item. I'm only going to add this. I'm not going to do the VAT related one, but I'm going to discounted item. But this shows how it kind of all works. Extends. If I can spell it right. Extends the item class. It comes up in red, but I'm going to add in private int the break point, so the point at which you start to get a discount, and private double the discount itself, discount rate. Now you can decide how you want to do the discount rate. You can do it as a double and pass it over as a fraction, or you can do it as an int and pass it over as a whole percentage and then have to divide by 100. I'm going to pass mine over as a fraction, but now I can insert the constructor, and I'm just going to insert a constructor. Now it's got five parameters. I'm going to add my getters and setters. I don't actually think I'm insert code. Sorry. I'm going to add my getters and setters for the two things that I want. And then what do I need to do? I need to, oops, I've returned to the wrong place. I need to do my toString. So I'm going to use the insert code. Well, let's cancel that. Let's use insert code override method. And I'm going to override the method. Well, I'm going to do two of them, calc cost, and I'm going to do toString. So I'll do them both at the same time. It generates two methods, and it just takes the call to the toString of the superclass. If I get rid of all that, I don't need these comments. Just tidies it up a bit. Now, the cost. If I'm below the breakpoint, then the cost is exactly what it was before. So I could do something like if the number that I've ordered, so this dot number of units, get number of units. If this dot get number of units is less than or equal to the this dot breakpoint, I could use this dot get breakpoint, doesn't really matter. Then what am I going to do? The cost is going to be exactly the same as it was before. I'm going to return super.calcCost. Else, what am I going to do? I'm going to apply the discount. Now, in the question, it says that the discount is only applied to items above the breakpoint. So one way of doing it is to apply the discount to everything. So if I do super.calcCost and multiply that by the discount, I'm passing my discount over as a fraction. So if that's the fraction, then what I pay is 1 minus the fraction, this dot the discount rate. So that would apply the discount rate to everything, but you have to remember that the first up to the breakpoint you pay for everything. So and I'll let you work out why this is, but you should also have up to the breakpoint. You should be adding on. How can I get? Well, you should have break this dot. Oh, come on! For the first few items, you've taken off the discount, so you need to add it back on again. So if I do this dot get breakpoint or breakpoint, doesn't really matter. That tells me how many items have been discounted when they shouldn't have been. So I need to multiply that by this dot the cost per unit to find out the cost of the first few items up to the breakpoint, and then multiply that by this dot the discount rate to then add on the 20% or the 10% or whatever that I've subtracted up here. Okay, and that will balance things up again. Question's not about how that thing works. Question's about using polymorphism. So that thing there will give us calc cost. Now let's just go to main menu, and if I now create the main class. If I now create a discounted item, and that'll be let's call it D1. D1 equals new discounted item. And what do I have to do for this? I need to say what the breakpoint is. So I'm going to set the breakpoint to 4. And the discount, I'm going to apply 50%, 0.5. Big discount. What are they going to be buying? They're going to be buying hats. I don't know why I've gone fashion conscious all of a sudden, but they're hats. Each one of them costs £2.50. Going rate for a hat these days. And because the breakpoint is 4, I'm going to buy 3 of them first of all and see what happens. And I'm going to do system. Oh, that was a bad idea, wasn't it? S out tab D1. And let's run that and see what happens. So I should find that no, I've got 3 at £2.50, £7.50. There's no discount applied because I haven't gone beyond the break point. Now, what happens if I buy 10? If I buy 10, then it shouldn't be £25, it's £17.50. Now, why is that? The first 4 up to the break point will cost £2.50. The first 4 cost £2.50, and then the next 6 I get half the amount off. So for the next 6, that would cost me £15, but if I'm only paying half, it only costs £7.50. So that's why I get £17.50. So that thing works, okay? And notice something else as well. We haven't done anything to the toString, but look, it's actually taking the calc cost from within the discounted items method. And that's because when you call the super.toString, it goes to this toString of the superclass, so it goes to item, and in there, what does it say? It says this.calc cost, but you're actually calling the superstring from within discounted items, so it uses dynamic lookup, and it goes to the calc cost, which is in the class the thing was called from. Okay, so it will automatically take the correct calc cost for the class from which it was being called. But that output that we've got at the bottom there, it doesn't say discounted rate or anything. So what we can do is tag on the end with a discount of plus this dot discount rate. We're going to do plus applied. Can I spell applied? Applied after plus this dot. Get the breakpoint plus items. Now, if I run that thing, it will say hats 10 at £2.50 with a discount of a half applied after 4 items, so you can see all the details. And we can do the same thing for the VAT item, but I'm not going to go on to that. What I'm going to do, because you can do that yourself, what I'm going to do now is add the class for grouping all these things together into a sales order. So the sales order class looks a bit like this. I'm just going to get rid of that. The question says, so this is a collection of items of different types. Question says we need an array. So we need private, we always need private for all the fields. It's an array of item objects, and I'm going to call it items because I'm very lazy. I can't think of another name. We also need to have, as soon as you have an array, and this array could be partially full, you need to have an integer which tells you how many items you've got at any one time. Okay, we do that, then we need to create a constructor. If you go for NetBeans and try to insert code for a constructor, we don't want to pass any of those across as parameters, so if you insert code, you just get that, which is kind of what we want, but it hasn't done what we want inside. That's because we have to fill that in. So we've got to actually assign something to this dot items, which will create our new array of item objects. Oh, what size is it going to be? Well, it says in the question that we pass over the maximum size of the array as a parameter. So if I use that, I can then set my array to be max size. But that now is an array of null objects. It's very dangerous to use that, and we need to know how to fill this up. So we're going to fill it starting at the beginning, and before we start filling anything, num items is set to 0. That's how many items we put in at the moment. We can have getter methods and setter methods. Am I going to be bothered about that? Not really. What I want to do is I want to write the public void. I need to add item method, which is going to take an item and it's going to add it to our collection. So how does that going to work? Well, we need to that means it's going to be an assignment to one of the one of the items in the array. We need to specify whereabouts it's going to be assigned. So next we'll go into the array. Whereabouts it goes? Well, in here, first time we call that item, we want it to go into position 0. The next time into position 1. The time after that into position 2. Well, we also know that every time we add something, we want to update the number of items. So I'm going to update the number of items like that. So the first time we go to add item, num items will be 0. And then we add 1 onto it. The next time we go to add item, num items will be 1. And then we add 1 onto it. And it just so happens that if we add next into that particular slot in the array, then everything will be fine. Now you should also put around that some test. And one thing you can do is to make sure that you're not going to overfill the array. You can say if this dot num items is less than the maximum size of the array. We can't use max size because it was a local variable here or a parameter, but we do know this dot items dot length. As long as the number of items, as long as there's space in the array, I'm just going to do a Control F to format that. As long as there's space in the array, we can add it, and you can worry about what happens when you can't add it later on. Okay, right. Then we want to print some stuff out, and in the question, it asked you to print it out so it was an array of strings, and I can't remember what it was called now. It was called get details. So if we're going to do this, then what we could do is an array of strings. Every item in the list is going to be put into a separate item in this array of strings. Now we need to create the array, and let's call it output. And what's it going to be? It's going to be a new array of strings. How big are they going to be? Well, we know that item can be of size max size, but a lot of them are going to be null. We know how many items we've got stored at the moment, num items. So that's all that we need to use in there. This dot num items, and then that means that our array of strings is going to be big enough. Then what can we do? For int I equals 0, I less than this dot num items, because we don't need to go all the way through the array. We just need to go through the non-null ones. What do? We do output I equals whatever item we've got. So that'll be this dot items I. And if you really want it, and then you need to do a toString. So it's a string that's being copied across there. And then we return output. Now you could do this just as a toString and take out the array and just tag everything into one big string. This is just another way of doing it. So if I go back to main, I can create a sales order. I think that's what I called it. And I'm going to call it S equals new sales order, spelling it correctly. So that will create an object. Oh, what have I spelt wrong? What have I done? Oh, I need to give the size of I forgot. I need to give the maximum number of things I'm going to store. So I'm going to say 50. I can say anything I want there, because now what I'm going to do is say s dot add item, and I've got I'll put I1 in first, and then I've got s dot add item, and I'm going to put I2 in, and then I've got s dot add item. And guess what? I'm going to put D1 in. So I'll put 3 items in. Now, if I want the information about those, I have to call s dot get details, but that returns a string. And I can't just, an array of strings. I can't just send that to a system.out.println statement. So I have to save that. I'm just going to save it as a little temporary string. Let's call it temp. And now I can just do for string. I haven't used s. I have used s. st in temp. For each string in temp, what am I going to do? I'm going to do s out st to print out the string. Now, if I run this, I'm just going to comment out that line, and where's the other one? No, that's it. The 2 lines which print something. If I run this, it's actually gone through and it's identified the 3 things that I want. There's the tins of beans, £3.60, etc., etc., etc. And the discounted item comes up as a discounted item. Even I run the 2 string down. I run the 2 string inside sales order. And for the discounted ones, it uses the appropriate 2 string from discounted. For the normal items, it uses the 2 string from an item. The next thing that you were asked to do was to work out the total cost. So public double, get total cost. So what do we need to do here? Well, we just need to go through each item in our array. Oh, guess what? I've got all of this here. I'm going to just copy that because I know that some of the array items are nulls. So I need to have a for loop which looks something like what I've got there. It's not a string that I want now. It's a double. So I'm going to make a double. And the output is now going to be total. And what am I going to do? I'm going to do total. Every time I go around the loop, I'm going to add on, not this dot items dot to string, I'm going to add on the calc cost. So that'll add all the costs up, and then I return total. Go back to main, do a S out, and say total cost is £, make it nice, plus, and it's S dot get total cost. There we go. So it should add up the values. Let's see what happens. So £75, £17.50 and £3.60 comes to £96.10. Excellente. The only other thing that you're asked to do, and I haven't got a VAT item here, but I've got discounted item, is just return all of the the VAT items, but I'm going to change that and just return the discounted items. And I'm going to copy this again because we need the same kind of structure. I'm going to return them all in a string, and what am I going to get discounted? That's not spelled very well, is it? Counted item details. I'm just going to have a single string. I'm going to start off with it being completely empty, and every time I find a discounted item in my array, I'm going to add it to the string. So I need to have a little if in here. How do I identify if something's a discounted item? Well, I do this dot num items I. Is that an instance of discounted item? If it's a discounted item, that's not working very well, is it? What have I done wrong? Discounted item. If this dot array required but found int. What have I done wrong? If this dot num item, oh, it's not num items, you fool. It's if this dot items, because it's one of the items, is an instance of discounted item, then what do? We do output plus equals this dot items I, and you can do it that way, or you can actually force it with a to string, and that would work as well, and then you return it. So let's go back to main, and we'll do system out, and what is it? It's s dot get discounted items details. I'll tell you what, we could in here, let's discounted items and a couple of new lines just to make it kind of stand out a bit. Well, let's put a new line in front. Let's go wild with new lines. Now, if I go to main and run this discounted items, this thing here, there's the discounted items at the bottom, and it's just picked out the one thing. It hasn't picked out the first two. Hopefully that will help. The main things are, don't get too worried about the kind of what's happening in the calc cost. The important stuff is you're overriding them, you're changing them using the superclass, same with the string. And when you have an array which can be partially full, then you need to have a little variable to tell you which ones aren't full. So num items, which gets incremented every time you add something. Have fun. How do I turn this thing off? Come to me. There we go.